Welcome back to Normal Baseball. Today we are back with our 2023 Will Be Team Projection Series. Today we are doing the Chicago Cubs. Let's talk about them. What's going on? Welcome back to Normal Baseball. Today we are continuing our 2023 Will Be series, which is a team projection series for every team in baseball. Today we are doing the Chicago Cubs. Big Cubs guy. Big Anthony Rizzo guy. Big Anthony Rizzo guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, today we're talking about the Chicago Cubs. Made a few... I'm so sorry for how I just said Cubs. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Made a few moves this offseason. Got a little bit better. And now we're going to talk about them. So basically what we did for this series is we made our own power rankings. We ranked every team on a scale of 1 to 10 based on 7 categories. So 1 to 10 in 7 different categories. We have lineup, bench, defense, rotation, bullpen, coaching, and energy. And we did each one 1 to 10. And the Cubs came out to be the 22nd best team in baseball and the 10th best team in the National League. The Chicago Cubs.
Chicago Cubs, baby.
David Ross is their manager. Last year they went 74-88. They got hot towards the end of the season, but not enough, obviously, to make that much noise. And, they weren't even thinking about playoffs. But this year, like we said, made a little bit of a couple moves. And, we'll see how their team's going to be this season. So, where do we want to get started? Lineup.
Lineup, might as well.
Do you want to tell everyone what we gave them for their lineup?
Yeah, so we gave their lineup a 7.5 out of 10, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the highest that we've seen so far for just any team's individual lineup. Because this lineup is good. This lineup is good. And you want me to read it off, or do you want to read it off?
Whatever you want. If you want to read it, you can read it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. So
I know you're a big Cubs guy, so.
Oh, massive Cubs guy. So they have Nico Horner leading off, playing second base. At shortstop, Lieutenant Dan, Dansby Swanson, their new signee. In left field, they have nine-figure Hap, Ian Happ. In right field, they have Seiya Suzuki, second-year player from Japan. DHing, they have Trey Mancini. Center field, Cody Bellinger. First base, 2016 All-Star Game MVP and ruiner of Luke Voigt's professional MLB career until he makes the roster, Eric Hosmer. Patrick Wisdom playing third base, and Tucker Barnhart behind the dish. It's a good lineup. Lineup.
It's a good lineup. They made a lot of moves. I think it's a circumstantially good lineup. Like, it really depends on how a lot of these guys play. First, we need to set something straight here. So, you're a big Eric Hosmer guy, right? But you're also a big Luke Voigt guy. And Eric Hosmer destroyed Luke Voigt's career.
Until he makes the roster.
Well, no, yes.
I know that he's
Luke Voigt will bounce back, but he ruined Luke Voigt's 2022 season.
The Padres would have won the World Series if it were not for Eric Hosmer.
Okay. So now what's going on with Luke Voigt and Eric Hosmer? Like, do you pick Luke Voigt over Eric Hosmer?
Of course.
Luke the Duke. King Louis V.
Yeah. 2020 home run champion.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to set that straight. They did get Hosmer on a league minimum contract because no one wanted him, and he's also being paid millions of dollars by the San Diego Padres for the next few years, so he doesn't need more money. So he got a minor league contract 1 year, or not minor league, a minimum contract for 1 year. Cody Bellinger is the biggest what if in this lineup for me.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a circumstantially good lineup depending on how they're playing, mostly because of Cody Bellinger. Will we get 2019 Cody Bellinger, 2018 Cody Bellinger? Will we get the MVP form Cody Bellinger with no shift? But to be fair, he also won an MVP while the shift was a thing. So, like, what do we think Cody Bellinger... Like, do we think he's going to be that much better? Not necessarily because of the shift, but maybe the change of scenery and a new team, and the shift just kind of helps with that.
I definitely think that getting out of LA was a massive step in the right direction for Cody Bellinger. Although I don't think that there are that many diehard Dodger fans as there are diehard Cubs fans. I think that the Cubs have a more forgiving market and friendlier market than the cutthroat Dodgers that, although they could never win a World Series if it were not for a COVID season, they're very much more cutthroat because they felt that every year they wanted to win. Whereas here, yes, they have the names that you could say that they should be able to compete and win. It's not enough. All in all, the team is just not built well enough, which is why they come in at 22nd on our power rankings.
Yeah, I feel like we've gone way too far in this will be already without talking about Dansby Swanson. I think that does need to be said.
Well, I said his name. I said Dan.
But reiterating a little bit more on him, they did sign Dansby Swanson to a 7-year, $177 million contract this offseason. So he is their shortstop for the next 7 years at least, barring a trade.
Yep. Even then, I'm pretty sure he's a full no trade.
He still can get traded, though.
Trade.
Amazing signing from the Cubs.
Yeah.
Especially if he continues to play as well as he has the past few seasons. There's nothing saying that he won't continue to play that well. Amazing signing by the Cubs. Going
Especially,
from...
They got him for very cheap. It's only $14 million a year. For this season, at least.
I was going to say, it's the AAV is $25 million.
Yeah, so it's $13 million this year, and then it really bumps up to 25, 27, 27, 27.
Yeah,
26,
it's not necessarily cheap. It's kind of what I would have expected Dansby Swanson to get. But it is certainly better than last year having Nico Horner playing shortstop and Nick Madrigal playing second every day. Now you have Dansby Swanson slotted in at shortstop, and Nico Horner will more than likely be slotted in at second base for everyday games. Dansby, 6.4 WAR last year, bringing that to the Cubs. I think this team will be better than they were last year, especially this lineup. I think this lineup's going to play a lot better than it did last year. You're getting Seiya Suzuki, his second year in the majors, who last year...
I
believe in him as well. Last year he played pretty good considering it was his first year in the States, because mostly with these Japanese players, we see a lot of them playing in Japan and coming over and struggling a little bit just because the game is a lot different. Pitchers are a lot different here. But he struck out a good bit, but not... Like, he struck out a lot, but he still batted .262. He had a 116 WRC plus, 14 homers, 46 runs batted in. He put together a solid season for his first year in the States, and I think he'll continue to get better. So
yeah, only good adjustments can be made for Seiya. So I'm looking forward to watching his second year as well.
Yeah, and you have the guys who were in this lineup last year too, with Ian Happ, who's been in this lineup for a while. I think Ian Happ is going to have himself a very good year. I like Ian Happ a lot. So hopefully he continues to be good. Yeah, he was almost traded last year.
Should have been traded last year.
I want to say this is his
fourth.
His last year in his contract. Yeah, I believe this is his last year in his contract. So after the season, he is a free agent. So we'll see how that plays out, depending on how the team's playing and depending on what they think he's going to be doing. What they think he's going to be doing next year. You got a guy like Nico Horner, who really kind of played better than people thought he would last season. Like, he kind of just, I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but he upped his game. Flew under the radar, but upped his game a lot. Patrick Wisdom's a guy who was good in 2019 or 2020 or something for like a couple months and hasn't been anything crazy since. I'd like to see him get a little bit better this season again, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. The only position that worries me with them is catcher, because first base, they have Hosmer and Mancini, who are going to be switching in and out at first base all season and DH, and I think Hosmer might be playing less than Mancini. Depends on how they start playing, but I think Hosmer will be playing less than Mancini. The only position that worries me is catcher. I mean, you have Tucker Barnhart, slot in your catcher slot with Yan Gomes, who those are two not bad, like they're not great catchers. They're good defensive catchers to an extent.
Solid. They're
solid catchers. They're not Wilson. It's a step down from Wilson Contreras. Obviously, yes, Wilson Contreras was not good at defense, but he was a very good offensive catcher.
Yeah,
neither of these guys are very, very good offensive catchers. So
yeah,
that's my only concern in this lineup. Otherwise, it's not a bad lineup for what they had last year. I think they did get better this offseason.
Yeah, the thing that oh shit. The thing that I look at, the one that questions me, is that we did see Trey Mancini play a good amount of the field last year with the Astros in their World Series run. And there's a part of me that kind of wants to say that Trey Mancini plays first, or he could play the outfield. Could you see Ian Happen move to center and Trey Mancini playing left? So that way then they could DH Cody Bellinger?
It just depends on the day.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of different things they can do with that situation. I think it depends on who they're facing or days off, like just you hit today, stuff like that.
It's weird because all of their platooning, like position-wise, is all still in their lineup. It's just a matter of where they put who they want to put where.
It's the DH spot. It's going to be very nice for them to give players a day off from playing the field. It's going to be stuff like that.
Yeah.
But overall, this lineup did get better, in my opinion. If we want to move on to their bench, who out of 10, we gave their bench a 5.4. Not anything great, and I do believe it's not anything special. I think what mostly brings it up for me is Christopher Morel, who was an amazing rookie last season.
Yeah.
Big utility guy, which I think is maybe the only reason that they don't have him in this lineup, at least on Fangraphs. I think because he's just a big utility guy. He kind of plays everywhere, and he played everywhere last season. They haven't really yet given him a set position to play, which I am not fully in agreement with. I think with a guy like Morel, who has this potential to be really good, you give him a solid place to play every day. So that's just my opinion on it, but I would like to see Morel get constant reps at the same position.
Yeah, I can understand that. I agree with you that he has the ability to be an everyday starter. It's just a matter of where, and after all the signings that they made, it does make sense that, you know, they're going to bet on the veteran guys before they bet on a guy who had one good season. That's, I think...
Yeah, and Morel didn't even have a crazy good season. He hit 235. 107 OPS plus. He didn't have a crazy good season, but he was
good.
He had 16 homers, almost 20 doubles, 19 doubles, 4 triples. He had a promising season considering he was a rookie. He can be a part of this lineup.
He had a year deserving of a starting spot somewhere on the field, and it's just not going to be there just yet.
No, it's not there just yet. They have those spots filled by players who have been have proved themselves more through a longer career and stuff like that. So It's just not his time yet. But I think his time will come. That sounds like he's. Sounds like I'm in a superhero movie. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think Christopher Morel is a guy to watch for this season when it comes to their bench.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch him.
Let's move on to their pitching.
Let's move on.
Because I think their pitching
what about their defense?
Oh, defense. My bad. Defense. We gave their defense out of 10 a 7.4. So pretty high. I think that's the highest we've seen so far. Just beats out the Pirates. Trey Mancini is a great defender at first. Dansby Swanson is a good defender at short.
Ian Happ in the outfield is good. And Nico Horner at second. Another just good.
Belly is good at defense. We've seen him rob a bunch of home runs. Not going to be possible with the Ivy, but we have seen him do it in the past. Have some very good defensive plays.
Games. You can do it during away games.
Right. I said, but with the Ivy, he can't.
But
yeah, so we'll see. Eric Hosmer, exists, but it's good defense, and like we said, their catchers are not bad defensively either. So I like it. I like their defense.
I agree.
Now we'll move on to their pitching. Their pitching, we gave them, for their rotation, We gave them a 6.7 out of 10 on their rotation. It is a good rotation, but again, I feel like it's circumstantial. It depends on how they play. I think there's a higher chance of the bottom half of their rotation playing bad than there is of them playing really good.
I agree with that.
Yeah, obviously you got Stroman, who was not bad last year, but was injured a little bit and almost like wasn't exactly who they wanted him to be last season. But when he did pitch, he was not horrible. He was pretty good at points. Very streaky. And then now they have Jameson Taillon, who they signed to a, I believe, 4-year contract. Took him from the Yankees in free agency. They signed him to a 4-year, $68 million contract. I love this contract for them. I absolutely love this contract for them.
I think that this is the classic. If anybody is more professional, it is the Chicago Cubs organization, because Jameson Taillon was offered more money from the Phillies and the Mets to go pitch in their organizations. But he said that after having the meeting with the Chicago Cubs and seeing everything and understanding how their organization works, is that he wanted to go to Chicago, which is really cool. And I think that just shows how different the Cubs are than other organizations when it comes to acquiring free agents. And they did it with every free agent that they signed this offseason. They didn't just send a contract to their agent. No, they invited them out. They, treated them really well. And it shows how classy an organization the Cubs are, and I'm just happy that Jameson Taillon is there because I think he fits the mold of what a Cub is.
That's fair.
I don't know if that was just like a bunch of nothingness, but
I don't want to say nothingness, but like,
what the fuck does it mean type of thing?
I don't know. When I think of Jameson Taillon, like, it sounded like you were saying, like, when you think of Jameson Taillon, you're like, yeah, that guy's a Cub. Like, similar to how, like, Rowdy Tellez is a Brewer.
Well, it just made sense. Like, I think that after the season ended, I think as a Yankee guy, I knew Jameson Taillon was going to be a free agent, and when I sat down and thought about it, it kind of made sense that he would go to a place like the Cubs. Like, I would have guessed, like, the Cubs or, like, the Brewers, like, one of those Midwest organizations.
Yeah, I think saying, he would be in the Central, whether it was the AL or NL Central, I think that's a fair thing.
I feel like that just fits.
Lower
not to
market.
say that he's not a good pitcher, because he is. I think it just fits his pitching style, the ballparks, and the run environment there more than the power in the West and East Coast,
Yeah, he had a good season last year. He does fit. I think what more of I correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're trying to say like more is like that he is going to now get his shot at being a 2-starter rather than a 4 or 5, which is probably where he would be in most of the East divisions, East or West divisions. Now he's going to be a 2-starter on this Cubs team.
Yeah, if
2
like
or 3.
The Mets were one of the finalists to sign him. If the Mets signed him, then
he's
he
a
would have
5-starter.
been the 5-starter.
He was a
If the Phillies signed him, he would have been the 4-starter.
He'd rather be higher up in the rotation and get a chance for these next 4 years and kind of just be a great pitcher for the Cubs, as good as he possibly can be. I think he will continue to be good. Last year was one of the best seasons of his career behind 2018. He pitched in 32 games, had a 3.91 ERA, but that's kind of feels like an inflated ERA. Like watching him, he had just, I think some bad outings kind of were like outliers. He had a lot of good starts.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can continue to be good for the Cubs next season.
And as for their number 1 starter, Marcus Stroman, I think that
Strosho.
He will be just as good as Jameson Taillon, if not better, especially after a not-so-stellar first year in the Cubbies uniform.
Praying for no injuries for Marcus Stroman this season. I want to see him
personality
full
around
season.
The game, and to have him pitching every 5th day is just such a big plus to the game, let alone a plus to the Cubs organization.
I agree. Looking towards the bottom half of the rotation, they have Drew Smyly, Justin Steele, and Adrian Sampson. Kyle Hendricks is injured. He had a sprained shoulder. He had a tear in his shoulder back in July of last season. I'm not really sure when he's coming back, but as of right now, he is injured. He's not on the IL, I don't think. He's not on the 60-day IL at least, so he might be back soon. Not 100% sure on that, but Justin Steele, Drew Smyly, and Adrian Sampson, not bad.
But those are good.
Those are the guys who are very circumstantial. It's like it depends. It feels like it depends on the day.
Yeah.
And it really depends on who they're playing. Like there's guys out there who you're like, he's going to give me a middle of the road kind of start no matter what. These guys, it's either middle of the road. It's either like middle of the road, good, or really bad. But it depends on like just the day and who they're playing and who's in the lineup. Like it depends on a lot of different things, how they are. But I think they are going to be not great.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely a top-heavy pitching rotation, which is why we gave them a 6-7. But circumstance, like Alex said, can lead to great things for the bottom half of their rotation.
Yeah, so there is a world. So
as for their bullpen, though.
Their bullpen.
We gave their bullpen a 7.2.
7.2 out of 10.
Which I think fits, especially because, Braden Hughes, they have a lefty who I think could be very locked down this season. Michael Fulmer, who I think we all kind of know what he's capable of, and I'm looking forward to having him come out in relief now, along with Brad Boxberger. Any other names that you really want to hit on?
No, I was just going to more of highlight the contracts. Michael Fulmer, they got him for 1 year, $4 million, so that's pretty good value there, $4 million for a guy like Michael Fulmer. Brad Boxberger, who I feel like Brad Boxberger has been in the league for like
forever,
a million years, but I guess not. He signed a 1 year, $2.8 million deal with an option for next year, a mutual option. He was decent last year. He had a 2.95 ERA, just under 3 ERA in 70 games pitched. So I think that's a good signing. I think this is a good bullpen when you really look at it. I think they have a lot of good names in this bullpen.
Yeah, it feels underrated when you just look at the names. But when you look at the numbers attached to all of them, it makes sense as to why we put them at a 7-2.
Yep, they got Julian Merriweather off waivers from the Blue Jays. And Keegan Thompson is probably my favorite name in this bullpen. Keegan Thompson, I really enjoyed watching him last season, so I am excited to watch him again this season. I think he's a good part of this team.
All right.
Whether he's starting or a reliever.
Sounds good to me.
Because I believe he did start a decent bit last season.
I don't 100% know. I'll be honest. I don't watch too many Cubs games.
I'm fairly certain he started a good amount of games last season. 2022, he started 17 games, pitched in 29. So he was, I believe towards the end of the year, he was starting a lot. I know that because of my fantasy baseball. I do the old pitcher drop, pick a bunch up. That's how you win. But yeah, so he's a good part of this team. I really enjoy him. And then injured, you have Cody Hewer, who got Tommy John in March of last year. So he'll probably be back sometime soon.
All-Star break, I think, would be like the latest possible.
The very latest. I think maybe June.
It depends on how they want to rehab him and stuff.
Yeah, it depends on what the Cubs want to do.
To come back from.
Yeah, it depends on what the Cubs want to do. You have to be very careful. And then Ethan Roberts, who was part of their bullpen, Tommy John in July. So he will not be back, most likely, this season. Yeah.
As for their coaching, we gave David Ross a 6.4 out of 10, which is I think solid. The coaches behind the Chicago Cubs lineup are good. They're no longer at the peak. They don't really have the same amount of utility, especially bullpen wise, to really call them the best of the bunch. But I think that a 6.4 is very reasonable because they're going to do well with what they have.
I think a 6.4 is generous. I think the big part of the 6.4 comes from like how last season they did play really good last season towards the end of the year. I think also somewhat has to do with the fact that David Ross really was not the greatest manager last season. Like there was a lot of times that I've seen things about him not being the greatest manager last season. So I would like to maybe see him get better as a manager. But I think 6.4 is generous, and that's all I'll say on that.
I get that. I do think, though, it's a matter of circumstance. Also, you have to remember that usually 99% of the times whenever a team is not doing well, as the 2022 Chicago Cubs were not doing too well all year, the fall man's always going to be the manager. You know? I just think that this year
No, but I don't think that's what it had to do with. I just think in general, I think some of those decisions he made, I think just generally he was not the greatest manager last season.
All right, I think he'll be just fine this upcoming season.
I hope so. I'm not going to guarantee that he's going to be better than last year, but I would like to see him develop a little bit better as a better coach.
Sure.
Moving on to their energy. Their energy, we gave them a 7 out of 10. They have guys that can make energy, can be energetic. Dansby can bring the energy. Cody Bellinger, when he's good and when he's making plays out in the outfield, he brings as much energy as the next guy.
Yep. Nico Horner, I feel like he's going to come more out of his shell just because he is surrounded by these guys who are big personalities. And I hope I can say the same thing about Ian Happ, who he is a big personality guy and he does express it. I want him to show it like every day more than just a rarity type of thing. And I think all in all, 7 is a very fair place, especially because on the pitching side, Marcus Stroman is a lot of fun.
I was gonna mention Marcus Stroman. He is very energetic, and when he's good, he's having a fun time on the mound.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we'll get into some of the more fun stuff. Rather, we'll also say if you were counting at home, out of the possible 70 points that we could have given them, they got 47.6, making them 22nd best in baseball and 10th best in the National League. Now, do you want to do a rookie report?
Of course.
Lewis is highlighting one rookie from each team.
As for the rookies with the Chicago Cubs, there's not too many, especially since, what's his name? Ethan Roberts was kind of like the guy who everyone was looking at last year, and now he has to undergo Tommy John surgery. He underwent Tommy John surgery, my apologies. The next biggest guy that I want to look at, because I think that he's going to make a very quick jump, Pete Crow Armstrong. Acquired in a trade, I believe, a couple of years back for the Chicago Cubs, or a year or so ago. Last season, he played in both played in both A ball and high A, where he batted .312 across both leagues with an .896 OPS over 101 games, most of those being in the high A. He hit only 16 home runs, 61 RBIs, but, just all around, I think that his ability to play baseball is much higher than the league that he's in, the minor league system that he's in. So I think we're going to see him climb rather fast. And we actually have the Chicago Cubs game on right now. Pete Crow Armstrong, it might still be in the lineup. I'm not sure if he got subbed out yet. But he's going to be a really fun guy to watch. And I think that he has the skills to not only play in the minor leagues, but to succeed at a high level in the majors.
I agree. I think that they're kind of holding him down too much.
Yeah.
I think
they're
he needs to come back.
They're very much taking his time, which is a little bit nice because, you really want players to develop, but kind of screwing them out of contracts later in their career if they do go on to be the great players that we hope and know most of them can become. Ranked 30th in the MLB Top 100 and first in the Cubs organization as of right now.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Good for Pete Crow Armstrong.
Good for Pete Crow Armstrong.
A couple of guys they lost this season. We'll also talk about that really quickly. Obviously, Wilson Contreras was the biggest. He hated being in Chicago towards the last couple of years he was there, so we knew that was coming.
Yeah, and his comments with the Cardinals more than proved that.
Yeah, Rafael Ortega signed a minor league contract with the Yankees. Wade Miley signed a 1-year deal with the Brewers. Clint Frazier signed a minor league deal.
Jackson Frazier.
Signed a 1-year deal with the Texas Rangers. Not a 1-year deal, a minor league deal with the Texas Rangers. Jason Hayward signed a minor league deal with the Dodgers. God knows if he retired or not.
I think it's mostly if he breaks camp with them. If he doesn't, then he'll probably retire.
Yeah, that'll throw.
And Franmil Reyes is now on the Royals on a minor league contract, non-roster invitee is spring training as well. Yeah. Alec Mills is still a free agent. Andrelton Simmons still a free agent. Stephen Brault, who wasn't too big of a part of their team last year, but he's a free agent. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Cubs will be exciting to watch. We have them low because there's just so much unknown with the team. I think that's part of it, Cubs fans, because you guys did sign a lot of free agents at the major league level, and it's a matter of how they're all going to pan out. You know, that you took a waiver on Eric Hosmer and Cody Bellinger. You got a solid guy in Dansby Swanson, but will he be able to produce the same in a different run environment, in a different lineup that doesn't, rake in the runs like it's leaves during the fall? You know, we'll have to see. We'll have to find out, but I have high hopes for the Chicago Cubs.
There you go.
Fly the dub.
I have high hopes, but I think their fate is kind of set in stone. But we'll get into that in a second. Who do you think their MVP hitter will be for this season? We give an MVP hitter and an MVP pitcher. Who do you think their MVP hitter will be?
You know what? I'm going to go with Dansby Swanson. Who are you going to give the MVP hitter award to?
I'm going out with it. I'm going to take the flyer, Cody Bellinger.
Oh, okay.
Show me Belly. I want 2019, 2018 Belly back. I think baseball needs that Cody Bellinger back, and I'm excited.
Cody Bellinger and Christian Yelich are now in the same division.
Exciting. MVP pitcher, who you got?
I'm giving it to Marcus Stroman. Come on, Stro Show. Give us what we all want. Just play a full season because we know that you're great.
I'm going Keegan Thompson. Like I said, I watched a lot of him last season. Way too much, probably. Like, I would put on Cubs games because he was pitching. Big fan of Keegan Thompson, and I think he was underrated last season, so I'm looking forward to seeing him this season.
All right. That'll be exciting.
Yeah, now to round out the episode, I am going to say the 2023 Cubs will be, and Lewis will tell me what place he thinks the Cubs will be in the NL Central this season. Lewis, the 2023 Chicago Cubs will be in.
Third place in the NL Central.
I agree. Third place in the NL Central seems to be where they're going to pencil themselves in. There is a world where they could come second, but like I said, this is a very circumstantial team in my opinion. So
Agreed.
Third place in the NL Central is where we have them. And yeah, that should do it.
Chicago Cubs, baby.
Cubs have a fun
Woo!
year. Let's go Cubs.
Let's go Cubbies. Let's go Cubbies. Let's go Cubbies.
Yeah, so thank you guys for listening, watching, viewing, subscribing, liking, commenting, following, sharing, and sharing again, following again, commenting again. And we will see you guys in the next Will Be.
Cubs.
Peace.
Woo!